There is some breaking news this hour about Canada and China, the trade war, and the long diplomatic chill in relations between Ottawa and Beijing.
Now, Donald Trump has announced an immediate end to all trade negotiations with Canada because of an advert that criticizes his tariffs on the country.
Our top story today, Canada reaches a landmark trade deal with China. It involves Beijing lowering tariffs on Canadian canola and seafood, and Canada allowing tens of thousands of Chinese-made electric vehicles into the Canadian market.
Canada is in the middle of a dramatic economic pivot. Prime Minister Mark Carney, the former Bank of England governor turned Canadian leader, is leading what many are calling the most significant reorientation of Canadian trade in decades. Why the shock? Because after years of deep integration with the United States, our biggest trading partner, Canada is facing relentless pressure from U.S. tariffs under President Donald Trump's second term. Tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, copper, lumber, and more have hit key sectors hard. The USMCA trade deal hangs in limbo ahead of its 2026 review, described by some as a zombie agreement, neither fully alive nor dead. The result? A real trade shock. Canadian exports to the U.S. have dipped, supply chains are strained, and provinces like Ontario and Quebec, home to manufacturing, are feeling the brunt. But here's the twist. Canada isn't just defending, it's counterpunching with a bold diversification strategy. And that's the economic move everyone's watching. Let's rewind a bit. Since Trump returned to office in 2025, tariffs became the weapon of choice for reshaping global trade. Using authorities like Section 232 for national security and IEEPA for border issues, the U.S. imposed or threatened duties on allies and rivals alike. For Canada, 25 to 35% tariffs on non-USMCA goods, with exemptions for compliant products, but many sectors like vehicles, steel, and energy faced hits. Threats tied to everything from fentanyl flows to defense spending. Even talk of Canada as the 51st state added political tension. The impact? Canada's economy grew cautiously in 2025, around 1 to 2% in spots, but trade-exposed regions suffered. Jobs in auto manufacturing and metals felt the pain. Consumers worried about higher prices from tariffs. A Bank of Canada survey in early 2026 showed many Canadians still anxious about inflation, debt, and job security, even as some said the worst of the trade war might have passed. But Carney's government refused to stand still. Instead of waiting for Washington, Canada accelerated a gentle reset, diversifying away from over-reliance on the U.S., where 65 to 75% of exports still go. The goal? Double non-U.S. exports over the next decade. The big headline right now? Canada's new strategic partnership with China, announced just days ago in mid-January 2026. After Carney's visit to Beijing, the first by a Canadian PM in years, Canada and China struck a five-pillar deal, lowering tariffs on Canadian canola, peas, lobsters, crabs, and other agri-food products, China dropping retaliatory duties, allowing up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into Canada at reduced tariffs, down from 100% to around 6 to 15% MFN rates, opening doors for energy, finance, and investment ties. This unlocks billions in new export markets, $7 billion estimated in the short term alone. It's pragmatic. Canada needs new buyers for its resources, and China wants access to North American markets. But it's not just China. Carney's been busy. New partnerships with Qatar for energy, defense, and investment, talks for free trade with India, ASEAN countries, Thailand, Philippines, and Mercosur. 12 new trade and security deals signed in just 6 months. At Davos this week, January 2026, Carney delivered a powerful speech calling the old rules-based order ruptured, not transitioning, but broken. He positioned Canada as a middle power leader in building resilient, diversified coalitions. He even pushed back on U.S. tariff threats over Greenland, urging dialogue instead of coercion. Meanwhile, domestically, federal barriers to interprovincial trade removed,
$1 trillion in fast-tracked investments in energy, AI, critical minerals, and new trade corridors. Buy Canadian policies to prioritize domestic steel, lumber, and materials. The message is clear. Canada is no longer betting everything on the U.S. relationship. It's building alternatives. Of course, this pivot isn't risk-free. Critics warn rapid ties with China could backfire. Geopolitical risks, supply chain vulnerabilities, or U.S. retaliation. The White House already said Canada might regret easing on Chinese EVs. Ontario's premier even called for boycotts on Chinese vehicles. Economists from RBC, Goldman Sachs, and others see 2026 as a potential rebound year if tariff headwinds fade, fiscal policy expands, and rate cuts help. Growth could pick up as diversification pays off, but uncertainty lingers. The USMCA review in July 2026 could bring more talks or more shocks. For everyday Canadians, higher costs in some sectors, but potential wins in jobs from new exports and investments. Alberta's oil sector eyes Asian markets to reduce U.S. dependence. Southwestern Ontario braces for ongoing transition pain. So, why is everyone watching Canada's trade shock? Because it's a test case for middle powers in a world where the old US-led order is fracturing. Carney's aggressive diversification, China deals, global pacts, and domestic reforms could redefine Canada's economy for a generation, or it could expose new vulnerabilities. One thing's certain, 2026 is the year Canada stops reacting and starts reshaping its future. Stay tuned, we'll keep tracking this historic shift. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts below. Is this the right move for Canada?